Or sponsors. Welcome to the Ask the Experts Show with local celebrity hosts Steve-O and Renee. Sit back each week while Steve-O and Renee educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve-O and Renee with today's expert in their field.
Hey, good afternoon. I hope everybody survived the supposedly hurricane. Gosh, we went out and bought all that food and boarded the windows up, and God just laughed at us and said, not this time. So, no beanie weenie. Anyhow, today's another day of Ask the Experts. We're here with our guest, Mr. Shulman, Mr. David Shulman of Ginsberg and Shulman. They are our estate planning attorney, and I did get your emails last week, so we're going to keep it simple. We had two of them that actually said, could you keep it a little simpler? So I don't even know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Well, yes. People, every time a new client calls me up, they say, I just have my life is simple. I have a simple estate. So when people say
they're trying to keep the rates down, right?
When people say something simple, and what they really mean is I don't want to pay a lot of money.
Exactly.
I start asking them, do you have children? Yeah, well, I have children, and my wife has 3 prior marriages, and she has children from each of them. We have grandchildren, and we own 3 houses and businesses and condos, and it's not that simple.
Wow. I'm going to tell you something. I have gone through. And the estate planning attorney was already chosen by the person who passed away. I know, first of all, hats off to you. Your job is tough, buddy. I'm telling you, the fighting that goes on, and it's all about money.
It really is.
I mean, it's about, even with a will, it's about money. And this person doesn't want this person going in to the bank. And it is insane. And then the person who gets more money because they were helping taking care of them versus the one who didn't get a lot of money. And it just, wow, I don't see. It's almost like family law with all the fighting that was on.
You got to be an amateur psychologist.
Exactly.
A lot of times people get along, but more and more you're seeing things are becoming more and more litigious. You're fighting over dead people's money.
It's all about money, isn't it?
It really is.
And then this is after the will was done.
I mean, people will say it's not about the money; it's about the principle.
Okay,
and that's not true. It's almost always about the money.
I have never seen anything so crazy. And then what you don't see is maybe the relatives who they weren't very close. All of a sudden, they want to be close.
Sure.
And if you didn't invite them to the funeral because they never came around, now all of a sudden they're mad because they weren't invited to the. Your job is so tough. So I see why it's important. First of all, to have a will. Anybody who doesn't have a will now is insane. And we've talked about what age should you start off. But before we get there, tell everybody about your firm because you got a great firm.
Oh, thank you, Steve. We're a 2-person firm. We're a boutique law firm, as opposed to one of those large impersonal firms where there's 300 attorneys and you never know what you're going to get, and give you to a paralegal. And we specialize only in estate planning, elder law, and probate and trust administration.
You're certified also,
right? We're certifiable and certified.
So, and
right.
Tell people what the difference is. Attorney who's certified versus the one who isn't certified.
Both me and my partner are board certified by the Florida Bar. I'm board certified in wills, trust, and estates, and she's board certified in elder law. And that's the Florida Bar recognizing you as an expert or specialist.
You can say you're an expert.
You're an expert or a specialist in your field.
But you did extra things. They didn't just stamp on your forehead.
No, it's
board certified.
No, it's a whole process. It's a whole process. First of all, you have to apply, and even in order to apply, you have to have certain specifications to apply. You have to be practicing for at least 5 years, and more than 50% of your practice has to be in that field. And then it's a very long application. You have to get recommendations and peer reviews. And then there's a very difficult test that has
and if you don't pass it the first time, What happens?
You have to take it again the next year, or you have
But
to
you
wait.
have to wait a year, though, don't you?
I think you have to wait a year or two.
What made you want to get certified, board certified?
Well, it's because this is the area I specialize in, and I want to help set myself out as I mean, I know I'm an expert, but I want to help set myself out as an expert and specialist in the field.
The bar,
For the bar.
Florida bar looks at you as an expert.
Right, to let clients know, this is where I am, this is what we can do, and this is how we can help you.
So when did you start your practice?
Well, I graduated law school in 1998, and then after law school, I worked for the government for about 7 years. I actually worked for the IRS in Washington for 7 years, doing a lot of tax work, where I learned quite a bit about what the government's looking for and how to help clients plan to minimize their taxes. And I was in D.C., I came home, I took a year off, I got my master's in estate planning from the University of Miami, and then I worked for a big firm for about 3 years, and big firm life just wasn't for me.
You lost that one-on-one with people,
I really did. And then so in 2009, I went out on my own. I started my own solo practice where I was on a solo for about 4 or 5 years. And then about 2-3 years ago, me and Jill Ginsburg, who was also another solo doing the same thing we did, we merged our firms to better help serve clients.
So she has her areas, which are elder law. What other areas?
We overlap. It's really overlap and complementary. We both do estate planning. We both do probate, but we sort of divide the duties in which she does most of the elder law work. She does almost all the guardianship work in which an elderly person is being exploited or can no longer take care of themselves. And I do most of the transactional work, but for the planning, but there's really a lot of overlap. We work together on all our cases.
I just learned this about a month ago, we have a lot of parents who have kids with disabilities. And they need to write your phone number down. And let me tell you why. Because we learned when you have a child who has disabilities, when they turn 18, the state comes knocking at the door. And there's a lot, you cannot do this by yourself. We actually tried it. It is so difficult to do this by yourself, but you could end up actually losing your child to the state if you don't take care of it.
If the child is disabled, when they've reached their age of maturity, you have to have a guardianship set up. So you have to go to court and get yourself appointed the guardian of your child.
But you really need an attorney who knows what they're doing.
And now there's a difference between guardian advocacy, which is, I think, just for autism and related things.
That's what we have.
And then there's a full-fledged guardianship when the person is really disabled and really can't take care of themselves. And guardian advocacy, I highly recommend an attorney, but it's not 100% necessary. But for full guardianship, you always need an attorney.
When the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, when they were going to court, his wife was trying to say that he lost all of his mental facilities, and he proved them wrong. So that could get pretty costly, couldn't it? Proving to the court.
And a contested guardianship can really be costly. It really is costly. That if the alleged incapacitated person says, wait a second, I'm not incapacitated, I'm fine, then it could be, there's a full trial.
What can a person do so when they get to that, I mean, whether it's their kids or their wife or family members trying to say that they've lost their faculties, can you do anything legally before that all starts?
Well, if you have good planning, you can have a power of attorney and healthcare circuit. You can appoint people to make decisions for you. But if those are the same people who are trying to take your rights away, it doesn't really help. So there's not that much you can do except fight the incapacity.
So when you tell someone that you should get power of attorney, tell me who. I would say, well, who should I get as power of attorney? What do you usually tell people?
Well, it's very difficult because you have to ask, who do you really trust to make these decisions for you? You know, if you're married, you do appoint your spouse. Most people do appoint their spouse first, or they appoint their adult children who they trust. But, all of a sudden in the Donald Sterling case, when they're getting divorced, he doesn't want her as a power of attorney anymore, and he may not want his children anymore. But
people have invested financial interest. Do you want them to have power of attorney?
It's a very difficult question because each person is different. It depends on their circumstances. For most people, and when things are straightforward and they do trust their family and everyone's looking out for their best interests, then yes, you can have your family members do it and it's okay. Every now and then, you could have a professional do it.
Could you be a power of attorney, or is that a conflict of interest?
I could, but I generally don't like to do it.
You don't want to get in the middle of it, do you?
It's very, very rare cases that when I would do it, because either a conflict of interest or because someone's going to sue me.
I got you. Okay. So let me get back to the easier questions. First of all, this will is so important. In fact, we saw that with Prince, who did not have a will. And everybody's coming out of the woodwork now.
Right.
So tell people why a will is so important, and when should you think about getting a will?
Well, if you don't have a will, then the state's going to decide for you where your property goes. That's called intestacy. If you die without a will, then the state has an estate plan for you where it sets out where all your property goes. And it may not be who you want it to go to. In Prince's case, it's going to go to all these half-brothers and sisters who he doesn't even know, maybe nieces or nephews.
Does the state get any of it automatically?
The state doesn't get it.
They don't? Okay.
But if you're rich like Prince, the government, you got to pay a state tax where the government gets it. But other than that, the state doesn't really get it. But long-lost relatives who you had no contact with could get all your property.
Wow. Tell me, what age should someone start thinking about getting a will?
Well, I think you need basic documents, a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate when you're 18, because otherwise there may have to be a guardianship. And if you have property, at any time you have property, it's a good idea to have a will. Even an 18-year-old could have a simple will if they don't have that much. And then when you're in your 20s and you're starting a family and you're starting to build some assets, it's certainly a really good time to think about planning and getting a will.
Should someone who doesn't really have a lot of money, can they do a will themselves?
Well, again, everyone thinks that their life is simple, but it's not really that simple. I've seen so many mistakes, from when you go to Office Depot and buy the forms, right, or the company that advertises on the radio, that people think they're saving money, but what happens is they do it wrong, and then after they die,
they find out way too late.
Right. Well, they don't even find out because they die.
Yeah, right,
but their family finds out that everything is wrong, that that the will's invalid, that the wrong person's inheriting. That it's going to cost so much more money to fix it, if it's even possible to fix, than if they did it right correctly to begin with.
If you have an estate planning question, maybe something about a will, and there's only so much David could do over the phone, but you can call us here at 888-565-1470. The name of the firm is called Ginsberg Shulman. You have offices in Fort Lauderdale on Las Olas. Don't you have another office?
We have an office in Boca on Glades Road.
So if you're in the Palm Beach area, they have a Boca office. Give everybody your phone number.
It's 954-990-0896.
Okay, when we come back, do I have a lot of questions for you. I mean, the 30 minutes goes by really fast. When we come back, we'll have more with David Shulman of Ginsberg Shulman, and we're going to talk more about estate planning. We'll be right back.
When was the last time your will was reviewed, or do you even have one? Do you know that without a will, the government decides how your property is distributed upon your death? Did you know that without proper estate planning, your children would receive every penny of their inheritance on their 18th birthday to use or lose without any guidance? The law offices of Ginsberg Shulman provide their clients with comprehensive estate planning, probate and trust administration, guardianship, business planning, and wealth preservation. They believe that planning for the future should not be left until the future. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or in retirement, your life is always changing. Comprehensive estate planning can protect you and your loved ones from the unexpected. When you experience a significant life cycle event or life change, it is a good time to have your estate planning reviewed. Contact their office today at 954-839-8705.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert show on a really horrible looking day today. We have David Shulman. He is one of the partners with Ginsberg Shulman. They do estate planning, they do wills, they probate. your partner does elder law, guardianship,
Trust administration.
and and not only are they good at what they do, but we can call them experts because they're board certified. So we're kind of getting back to some easy questions. How frequently should someone update their will?
It's a good idea to look at it, to have it reviewed. One, every time you have a major life change. Every time you get married or you get divorced or you have a new child or you move or you get a new job or you lose your job or you get or you inherit money. Every time there's a major life change, it's a good idea to review your will. And if not, every 4 years or so.
Do you think it's a good idea for someone to get a second opinion just for they just want to make sure everything is being done right?
Doesn't hurt.
I mean, of course, you have to charge them for that, but
Right.
I mean, I would think just
Am I the
to
one
make
giving
sure.
a second opinion, or are they getting a second opinion?
No, you would be giving a second.
I'd be happy to give second
I know.
opinions.
So people can do that. They can
Sure.
call you, and if they have a plan put together, have a will put together, and maybe they have someone, but they just want a peace of mind. They just want to make sure they're covered properly.
Right.
They can call your office.
Absolutely, and we'd be happy to sit down and read it and go through it with them and see. And a lot of time, I do that sometimes, and most of the time, I say this person did a good job. It's a small community. I know a lot of the other
Right.
attorneys. I say, oh, he's a good attorney. She's a good attorney. She did a good job. But every now and then, I'm like, I see mistakes and I see problems. And I let them know that
You have a very good reputation. We've had 2 attorneys who do estate planning who actually listened to the show, and they wanted to do a show. Well, we only have one estate planning attorney, but both of them knew you. Both of them said you've got a very good reputation.
Oh, that's nice.
I thought that was nice. So, listen, all you have is your name, right?
That's all you got.
So now, tell people some of the things that could happen when you die if you don't have a will.
If you don't have a will, when you die, the state is going to decide where your property goes. Especially if someone like Prince, who
Is there a
wasn't,
formula to that? I mean, how
there is that. Now it depends if you were married, if you have children from a spouse other than your current spouse. If your spouse has other children, so Prince, who wasn't married, had no descendants. And so his property is going to his brothers and sisters, and if some of them predeceased him, it's going to their children, to his nieces and nephews, people who he had no contact with at all. When he was very charitable, he could have given some to charity. He had friends. He had people he was close to.
So with not having a will, could a third cousin get something?
Theoretically, absolutely.
Wow. So they really spread it out. They go down the family tree when they do that.
Down or up, it's the laughing heir that you find out. Oh, your third cousin died who had no heirs, but even if you goes to your spouse and your children, it may not go in the proportions that you wanted to. That's in some cases will go half to your spouse and half to be divided among your children, which you may not
They
want.
usually do it pretty equally, though, when it comes down to the children.
And it all depends on what the circumstances are. And then if you have minor children and you haven't appointed a guardian, the state can get involved in who's going to take care of them, who's going to raise them.
So nowadays, it's crazy not to have a will.
So it's a big problem.
I mean, especially if you have any assets at all, you need a will.
Absolutely.
So now, you're an estate planning attorney.
Yep.
Tell everybody what the purpose is for having an estate planning attorney.
This is really too complicated for most people to do it themselves. So we really sit down with the clients, go through all their assets, go through all their family members, really take a holistic approach to talk about how to plan for their future and what's going to happen when they become incapacitated and after they pass away. So, I mean, there are all these questions that people do. I talk to them, they said, I didn't think about that. So there's a lot going on that people
What's the difference in an investment counselor or an investment planner versus the estate planning?
Well, we don't give investment advice. Well, investment planner or financial advisor tells people where to invest their money.
Okay, so insurance, annuities, you don't get into any of that at all?
No, so I'll work with the financial planner. I'll work with the insurance person or the annuity person, but we don't sell financial products. It's not what we do. We sell advice. When we provide advice, and then we provide the legal documents, but it's really the advice.
You work with basically what they have.
Right.
That's what you work with. Whereas an investment person is going to tell them insurance they should need?
Well, sometimes I'll tell people they don't have insurance. I mean, sometimes someone will come in, there'll be a young family, only one spouse is working, and I tell them, you need life insurance, but I don't sell them the life insurance. I say, you need life insurance. Here's the name of 3 or 4 people you can go talk to who will be able to provide it for you.
Now, let's talk about trust. Tell people what a trust is.
A trust is a way to hold property in which one property holds the property for the benefit of another, where the trustee holds the property for the benefit of the beneficiary. It sounds complicated. It is a little complicated, but it's really one of the most essential elements of proper estate planning, both for while you were living. And then when you die, you don't necessarily want to give property to your children outright because they can blow it. But if you give it in trust, in which an independent trustee is managing the money or managing the property for them, it can allow them to protect it from potential creditors and from themselves also.
Well, so explain a reversible. Is it called a reversible living trust?
A revocable living trust.
Revocable living trust. I hear that all the time.
A revocable living trust is a trust you set up while you're alive, and the purpose of it is mainly to avoid probate. What you do is you transfer your assets to it, and it works as a substitute for your will. Instead of your will saying where everything goes, the trust says where all your property goes.
So it could really save you a lot of money. Because you don't want to really get into probate, do you?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Revocable trusts are great for a lot of people. They're not necessarily for everyone.
Tell me the downside.
The downside is
I only hear the good side.
Well, the real downside is that not everyone, it's not a downside, is that not everyone necessarily needs it. And in order for it to work, you have to fund it. You have to, in order for it to be effective, you have to transfer all your assets to the trust. Then you have to transfer your bank account and everything you own to the trust. If you don't do that, then when you die, there's still going to be a probate. So for younger people who are still building their assets, they're not going to want to transfer everything they own to their trust. And also, oftentimes for married people, it's better to leave their assets as jointly owned as tenants by the entirety than it is to transfer it to a revocable living trust.
Do people with a lot of assets ever try to do this themselves, the estate planning?
Everyone thinks they want to do it
You've
themselves.
got to be kidding me.
People with a lot of assets think they can save money and time.
This is not the place to do that.
It really isn't. But, and a lot of them are smart. A lot of people don't try to do it themselves, which is good.
So tell everybody why they should have an attorney.
Because it's going to save them a lot more money in the long run. It's a lot more money for me to fix something on the back end after they die, and not just money, pain and aggravation.
You have a long checklist, don't you?
For their family members.
That people don't think of. You have a checklist.
Yes.
That but people probably never even thought of that.
Sure. And, all these mistakes that we can take care of and prevent while they're alive, then when they pass away, their loved ones may have to wait a year to get the money, and they have to go to court, and to be a lot more expensive and a lot more pressuresome on them afterwards. So it's really better to do it beforehand.
Give everybody your phone number.
It's 954-990-0896.
And you got a great website, so give out your website.
It's GinsbergShulman.com, which is GinsbergShulman.com.
Now, people need to. Now, do you keep the paperwork, or do your clients keep all the paperwork?
I generally let the clients take the paperwork with them. We keep copies.
Right.
We keep electronic copies, and we have. I can bring in how it's. The encryption, there's this big encryption program that we store it so no one can hack it. But the client takes when they do the sign-in documents, they take the originals with them.
So I call you up for the first time. I've got a few assets, and I think it's time now I start looking at estate planning.
Right.
So the first meeting, is there a charge for the first meeting?
It depends. It depends on the circumstances. Generally, what's going to happen is I'm going to send you an intake form first.
Oh, before you come in.
Before you come in, I'm going to try to send you an intake form for you to complete, to go through, and then you'll send it back into us, and then we'll look through, and then we'll be able to tell whether or not we can help you or not. Sometimes we can, most times we can, but sometimes maybe we can't, and we'll be able to either tell you that without charging you, or we can refer you elsewhere. But most times we will be able to, and then while there is
how long is the first meeting?
An hour and a half.
That's not bad.
No, because the thing is, if it's too much longer, people get antsy.
Okay. This is something that's so important.
It's tough, but it's tough to sit through a long meeting for a lot of people.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I am going to, like I always do, put you on the spot. Tell people why they should hire your firm.
Because we can really do a good job for you. That we're a small, we pay attention to our clients. It's just me and my partner. It's just me and Jill. We're very personal. We take a lot of interest in our clients and their families.
I say small for a reason.
Right. I mean, it's small, but we're also focused.
Right.
That we don't do family law. We don't do DUI. We don't do criminal law. We're small. We are focused on our areas.
And there's a lot of law firms that their shingle is so long, and you go, how do they keep up with the changes and everything?
Right.
So I'm so glad that's what you do.
So
you
we
just concentrate in one area.
And we pay attention to our clients, and we take good care of them.
Well, I tell you what, if that doesn't get someone to call you, so give everybody your phone number again.
Sure, it's 954-990-0896.
And then your address on Las Olas.
We're at 401 East Las Olas, which is the Bank of America building.
Oh,
we're on the 14th floor.
Great location. And where's your location
We're
in Boca?
in One Boca Place on Glades Road. It's 2255 Glades Road.
Now, do you have certain days you're at Fort Lauderdale?
We're at Fort Lauderdale almost all the time, and we are appointment only in Boca.
Gotcha.
And if you want to stop by and see me, I'm going to be at Fort Lauderdale. If you want to make an appointment to see me in Boca, we can do that too.
I'll tell you what else he's got. He knows all the best restaurants. And people who are getting up in age, that's very important to them.
That's true.
We talk about it all the time. We love having you here. The estate planning is so important because we do have a more mature audience with fairly nice assets, and this is just such a great show for them. And, you can go to your website and actually watch today's show or past shows, too.
All the past shows are up there already. Today's show should be up by tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be up tomorrow. So, listen, thanks for coming in, and we're going to have another show after this. We're going to be, we got the bio sports people coming in, and we'll be talking to them for the next 30 minutes. So the name of your firm is
Ginsberg Shulman.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you next month.
Yep, thanks, Steve.
We'll be right back.
When was the last time your will was reviewed, or do you even have one? Do you know that without a will, the government decides how your property is distributed upon your death? Did you know that without proper estate planning, your children would receive every penny of their inheritance on their 18th birthday to use or lose without any guidance? The law offices of Ginsberg Shulman provide their clients with comprehensive estate planning, probate and trust administration, guardianship, business planning, and wealth preservation. They believe that planning for the future should not be left until the future. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or in retirement, your life is always changing. Comprehensive estate planning can protect you and your loved ones from the unexpected. When you experience a significant life cycle event or life change, it is a good time to have your estate planning reviewed. Contact their office today at 954-839-8705.